Welcome back, everybody. So we are watching the testimony of Charlotte Armstrong, another employee from Emory Hospital. That's what we've seen today from doctors, nurses, different people that are working at the hospital. And the testimony has been pretty consistent about what Tex McIver was doing. We hear the question. Let's listen in.
That you described the person as an officer came up and asked you and Mr. McIver to go into that consultation room where the doctors came to deliver the news that Ms. McIver had passed.
I'm not sure of the time. I think it was probably between 1 and 3. It was somewhere between there.
Okay. Somewhere between 1 and 3 is your...
Yeah, because time was passing fast that night. Because every time I would look, I'd say, "Dog, is that time already?" So time was going by fast that night.
All right. Any follow-up based on that question, Mr. Abate? Mr. Sand? Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Armstrong, appreciate your time. We're free to go.
Thank you.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will have our afternoon break. We'll try to get you back in here in a little less than 10 minutes. Obviously, as I said before, if you need more time, you'll get more time. When you get back in here, we'll find out who the state's next witness is. Thank you.
All rise for the jury.
Welcome back, everybody. They're going into an afternoon break in the Tex McIver case. And there's so much to talk about. I'm so excited because joining us right now is Law and Crime trial analyst Julie Rendelman. Julie, it's great to see you here.
Good to see you.
All right. I want you to help me with something.
You have been like chomping at the bit to talk.
I have so much to talk about. Julie, I'm not a smart guy. Okay, I'm not a smart guy.
No one ever accused you of that.
But I need you to help me with something.
Okay.
Can you tell me from today, from yesterday, the day before, what have I seen that is anything about a cover-up of a murder as opposed to trying to fix the situation if it was an accident? You have a guy who, I see more of a situation where it was an accident. He did something stupid. He knows he did something wrong, tried to cover it up, tried to have people change their stories, tried to change his own story, didn't want to get in trouble.
Exactly.
He didn't know what Diane McIver was saying to the doctors, to the nurses. What do you see about a cover-up of an intentional killing?
Usually we're supposed to disagree, but I can't disagree with you on this one. I don't see it. I agree with you. Every act he's taken that the prosecution seems to be using in order to try to prove that, in fact, he is guilty of intentional murder, to me, at best, rises to the level of him saying, "I'm an attorney. I work for a firm. I had a gun in my hand when I shouldn't have when I was drinking. The gun went off while I was in the vehicle." And he's well aware as a lawyer, even as a non-lawyer, that potentially that act in and of itself could be some type of criminal negligence. And so, of course, at that point, the argument is that the things he's doing are to protect him from that. There's nothing, as far as I see, that rises to the level of him protecting himself from being accused of an intentional murder, nor in any argument that he would even think at that point he was going to be accused of any type of intentional act.
Because let's not forget, he was originally charged with involuntary manslaughter and reckless conduct, and you have to admit, if the state brought that charge against him, I would have said a slam-dunk case. You have a guy with a loaded weapon in a car who had already been drinking. We all know he was the one who shot his wife.
Right.
She winds up dead. How could he not be responsible?
Exactly.
But I don't see, as of yet, how this was intentional. Now, the prosecution's done something interesting. They started out with motive, and then they're going to go into the forensics of it and go into what actually happened in the car.
Right.
The trajectory of the bullet, the way the gun was positioned. Starting out with the motive here, was that a good strategy?
Well, I think it would be a good strategy if there was a motive, and I think that, I don't know if you agree with me, but when we walked away from what they called the motive, I walked away saying, where is the motive? I'm still missing kind of that smoking gun, if you will, in regards to what it was about the fact that he was either lacking money or needed money that in any way indicated that this was an intentional crime. And again, we always have to go back to that issue that we keep talking about, which is in order to accept that this was an intentional crime, you have to kind of assume that he kind of knew that somehow he'd be in this vehicle and this amazing opportunity would arise.
Okay.
Of which, how great is it that I'm going to be in the back seat? We're going to go into an area that I'm nervous about, that the people around me are nervous about. I'm going to ask my wife for the gun, and I'm going to make pretend to go to sleep, and then that gun's going to go off. That's an amazing, amazing, amazing planning.
Julie, I will play devil's advocate here for purposes.
Try.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate. We covered a case called the Todd Kenhammer case, okay? Now, we know this guy was driving with his wife. He said that this was all an accident, that a flatbed truck drove past, a pipe fell through, pierced the windshield, hit his wife. He said it was a tragic accident. He said it was a tragic accident. The jury didn't believe him, thought that it was murder. The question becomes, same thing in this case. If a man is going to kill his wife, wouldn't you do it in a different kind of way than what he did? Now, we have no idea. We see what outside perspective is about their relationship, that they had a loving relationship.
Right.
We'll never really know what was going on between Tex and Diane. And maybe in that moment, premeditation, having the intent to kill, it can form right at that instant.
I agree with you. The Kenheimer case is a little different because the argument is that he killed her and then thought of a reason afterwards how to explain it away. The scenario here is, keep in mind, you have another witness that's in the car, and there's no basis at all to believe that that witness in any way was involved in kind of the idea that he would take the gun and intentionally shoot her. So now you're including another witness into this story. And again, you have to realize, if you think about the scenario, he would have to, but he doesn't have to have planned it, but imagine the scenario of which he suddenly comes to the idea that he's now sitting in the car. They're in an area of which, by the way, keep in mind, he's not the one dictating which way they're driving. It's the it's his wife and the friend that are dictating the roads they're taking. And I assume, although we haven't heard from her, that the witness will say he had nothing to do with which way they were driving. So, and it's him in the middle of everything, where they know that it's not the safest area that they should be in. At that point, he's asking for a gun. So you would have to assume at that very moment is when he goes, this is such a perfect time to kill my wife. Now, on top of that...
But wait, Julie...
I'm not done.
Okay,
one more thing is that, again, when he shoots her, he doesn't shoot her in the head where he's guaranteed to make sure she's dead. He shoots her through the vehicle, through the seat, and into her back, where there's an argument to be made.
This guy's not an expert killer. He's not an assassin. He takes out the gun and shoots her. He's right behind her.
First of all, he is an expert shooter because he has guns in his house and has used them all his life, and that's what part of the testimony is. Do you really want, if you're going to be in a situation where you get your wife's money, do you want to risk the idea that your wife is going to survive and potentially be a paraplegic or a quadriplegic? Of course not.
But that's the motive that the prosecution is going with.
I don't care what's their motive. They're wrong.
No. The reason I'm saying that that's the motive they're going with. It makes sense for a jury. Let's say he didn't like his wife. Let's say he got into a fight with her. Let's say she said some comment, and he's a human being.
Sure.
He got upset, fired the gun at her.
Absolutely.
You know what? He got angry at that moment. We don't know what was said in the car. Maybe we'll learn a little bit more from Danny Joe. But couldn't that be the argument?
It could be, except that you would have expected to hear it on opening statements. You would have expected to hear the prosecution say...
Not if Danny Joe didn't say anything about it. We'll never know.
Exactly, but then you're going to have no evidence that there was any fight in the car. So then there's no motive.
But how important is motive, even if it's not an element of a crime?
Well, I think motive is the only thing you have here for the prosecution. Without the motive, you have an accident. And so what they're doing, I think, Aaron Keller had said it the other day about the idea that, they're trying to almost create the motive to fit the incident that happened. Without the motive, all you have is an accident in a car. And so what I think they're spending so much time doing is first trying to think of some reason why he'd want his wife dead. Then they're next trying to use what happened at the hospital to somehow let the jury believe that because he wasn't reacting the exact way that they want him to, that therefore that's an indication that he's guilty of murder. And I think that there's nothing so far that indicates this is murder, and nothing in regards to his behavior that indicates it's murder.
Well, we're talking about the trial so far, about what happened today and yesterday, but I really want to focus right now, and Julie and I have so much to discuss. We saw the testimony of Dr. Suzanne Hardy, who actually operated on Diane McIver when she was brought to Emory Hospital. Let's play you some of her testimony from earlier in the day, and then Julie and I have a lot more to discuss in this case.
I would have said about the same, but I have no specific recollection. I mean, I would guess between 4 to 6 nurses and techs around me. There was at least one other doctor, if not 2 at the time, helping me. Scribe still in the corner.
Okay. So I'm clear, when you say Tex, that's T-E-C-H-S.
Technician, yes.
Not Tex as in the defendant in this case. He was not in it.
Correct. No, he was not.
Okay. So we've got several technicians, we got nurses. So what is going on? How is the activity in the room at that time?
It was pretty controlled. Everyone has their own job.
Right. To an observer standing outside of the room, does it kind of look like a controlled ballet, or is it scrambled? What does it look like?
We joke it's a controlled chaos.
Right. How about noise in the room? Is it particularly noisy?
Not particularly so that I remember.
Okay. And so when Diane McIver began to speak, you were able to hear her based on where you were positioned.
Correct.
Okay. And if you need to refer to the medical records, I'll just put them here for you. They've been marked and entered the evidence in States 241.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you tell the jurors, did you say something to Diane McIver when she began to speak, or did she just speak on her own?
She probably spoke on her own. I don't remember specifics of what she said to make me start asking her questions.
Okay. But you do remember asking her questions?
Yes.
Can you tell the jurors what question did you ask Diane McIver?
Once you know it's a trauma, you kind of go down a pathway. So the first question is just any medical history, and then any surgical history. I don't know if I asked her allergies or not, but that's one of the next ones we ask about. And then I guess at the same time, then we were rolling her, so we were trying to determine any more of her wounds. So that's when I saw the other gunshot wound on her back and asked her, did you hear a gun? Or I asked her where the gun was held. And she said, I was holding it behind my back. Do you want me to continue with this?
Hold on one second.
Okay.
The question you asked was what?
Where was the gun held? In a trauma, you cannot determine the exit or entrance wounds. And so just by asking that question, you could determine where the entrance was.
Okay. Because you were trying to find out where the bullet went in.
Yes.
Okay. And her response was what?
I was holding it behind my back.
Okay, but that's not the only thing that Diane McIver said to Dr. Suzanne Hardy. What you're about to hear was really a major issue today, both in the cross-examination and direct examination. Let's listen also about what Diane McIver said.
There's two questions. First question, I told her I was going to intubate her, and I asked her if it was okay.
What did she say?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
She was very polite.
She was very polite. What was the second question that you asked her?
Would you like to see your husband?
And can you tell the jurors, did she give you an answer?
Yes, she gave me an answer.
Can you tell them what the answer was?
No.
Now, during this time that you were with Diane McIver there in the emergency room, did you hear her at any point in time make any comments or statements about the fact that she was dying?
Yes, I have no specific time frame I could tell you, but I do recall that she said that in different phrases.
What were some of the phrases that you recall her saying that?
I don't remember specifics.
You don't remember specifics? What was it? What was your impression about what she was saying when she was mentioning the word dying?
I'm not sure what you mean by impression. Patience.
What did you think she was talking about?
I think she felt like she was dying.
She felt like she was dying, right?
Yes.
That's the impression you got?
Yes.
And she said that to you at various points in time when you were with her, correct?
It wasn't specifically to me.
Okay, she just would say it?
Yes.
Okay. And let me ask you this. Did she say it before you ever asked her the question, would you like to see your husband? You recall her saying that?
Yes, because after I said that, then we intubated her. I don't think she spoke after that.
So, Dr. Hardy, prior to your testimony here this afternoon, did I show you a large demonstrative object that is actually right outside the courtroom, outside these doors?
Yes.
That's the earlier testimony of Dr. Suzanne Hardy in the Tex McIver case out of Atlanta. We do have a live feed back in that courtroom right now. As soon as it starts up again, we're going to make sure to go to it. I'm here with Law and Crime trial analyst Julie Rendelman. Julie, that statement, I don't want to see my husband. They made a big deal of that today. Do you think it's a big deal?
No, I don't think. I mean, I'll give you that curt answer of no. Look, when people are sick or dying, they feel many different things. Sometimes they feel so bad that they don't want to see someone. Sometimes they're tired or in pain. I don't think it means anything, especially because before that, she makes it very clear that this was an accident.
Yeah. All right. I think we have a feed back in the courtroom. Let's listen in.
Judge, all jurors are present and accounted for.
Thank you, Deputy Murphy. Ladies and gentlemen, as you're working through milestones, that was your last break of the week. That's a milestone for you. Your next break will be, we'll see you on Monday. The state has told me they've got some more witnesses to get us through the rest of the afternoon. Who's the next one?
Ryan Johnson. Sir. Ryan Johnson.
Ryan Johnson.
Sir, if you will, raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you should give the court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, sir, if you will. Have a seat. Get as close to the mic as you can. For the purposes of the court's record, please state and spell your name.
My name is Ryan Johnson, R-Y-A-N, J-O-H-N-S-O-N.
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. How are you doing? Why don't you tell the jury where you're employed? It's a mystery, but why don't you go ahead and tell them?
Yeah, I work at Emory University Hospital in the East Department.
So you're probably not the first Emory University hospital nurse that's coming here.
Right.
How long have you worked there?
Just over 4 years now. As a nurse.
Where in the hospital do you work?
In the emergency room.
Okay. And over the last 4 years, have you been in the ER, the emergency room, the entire time?
Yes.
Okay. Tell the jury a little bit about your educational background.
Yeah, got my bachelor's degree at Kennesaw State University. Just got my master's in December from Emory.
Okay. And were you employed on September 25th of 2016?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury what hours or shift you were working that Sunday evening?
7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
And did you become aware that there was a patient that evening that needed immediate assistance in the valet area?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember how you became aware of that?
I can't remember exactly how.
Okay. Do you remember what you did once you learned that?
Yeah, I started moving out towards the valet area. Before I could get out there, they were already wheeling the patient inside.
Okay. And when you say wheeling, was she in a wheelchair or on a gurney?
In a wheelchair.
Okay. And once you saw her, what was the first thing that you did?
Started heading towards room 2. That's where we were headed.
And when you got to room 2, did you assist in the transfer of the female and Miss McIver onto the gurney?
Yes.
Okay. And after the transfer, were you part of any of the medical treatment that was provided?
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of on and off.
On and off. So you were in and out of the room?
Yes.
Do you remember any specific parts of the treatment that you were a part of?
Helped get her clothes off and get her into the gown. Helped trying to get some IV lines. Running for supplies, specifically blood.
And when you say running for supplies of blood, is that why you were in and out of the room?
Part of the reason. I was also the triage nurse that night, so I couldn't get too involved.
Okay.
Questions from the jurors for Mr. Johnson? Yep, okay. Those will be working their way to the left. And then the deputy marshal.
As we wait for the jury question for this witness, let's just talk to Julie Rendelman right now. Julie, let me ask you a question. We keep seeing this being brought up. How does the prosecution fight away the fact that Diane McIver, the victim, said it was an accident?
Well, I guess the only argument they would have is that how would she know if, in fact, it was an accident? Because she's basing it on the fact that she wouldn't expect her husband to intentionally kill her. And so to them, it's meaningless that she's saying that, except potentially she's trying to protect her husband.
They're going to bring that up in closings, I would imagine.
I would think they would. I don't think it helps the prosecution. I think they're really more focused in regards to this witness on the fact that the defendant did not actually have real signs of having some type of anxiety attack, which I think, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't really mean much, because I'm not sure that someone who has an anxiety attack, or at least feels anxiety because their wife has died or is dying, has to show all the signs in order for a jury to buy that he was feeling incredibly upset and remorseful for what was going on.
All right, let's listen to the jury question. All right, we're waiting for the audio to kick back in once this jury question comes. As soon as we have it, the judge is going to ask this question of this witness. Jury has been asking some great questions. Let's listen in.
Were you in room 2 when Ms. McIver was moved from the wheelchair to the gurney?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall if Mr. McIver helped move Ms. McIver from the wheelchair onto the gurney?
I don't remember that.
All right. Any follow-up, Mr. Abate?
Hang on.
Well, you don't remember that he was in there, or you don't have a recollection of him being there, or you just don't remember?
I don't remember him being in there until just a little after we had got her into the bed.
Okay.
Answer the question.
Mr. Suzanne. All right. Thank you, sir. Next witness.
Stand called Dr. Rosie.
As we wait for the next witness, I think there might be 3 more today. The judge is extending the time in the courtroom till after around 5:30. That's when we expect it to close up today. Again, I'm joined here by Law and Crime trial analyst Julie Rendelman. Julie, as we don't have much time because this witness is coming on the stand. Again, I'm not seeing much from. You think this guy works for the hospital as well?
I'm trying to get a look at whether or not he is an orderly at the hospital or not, and I haven't made that decision just yet.
It's medical day as nurses and doctors and other people that work at the Emory Hospital.
Or people who even know the name Emory.
Or who know the name Emory.
Justified.
We'll talk about that a little later, about which hospital they went to and if that was an important part of the case. Let's listen in to this next witness.
Good afternoon, Dr. Rosen.
Good afternoon.
Might I assume you're not coming from the hospital?
No.
Can you tell the jury where you're coming from?
I do medical support for some of the local tactical SWAT teams, and I was on an event this morning.
Okay.
Everyone okay?
Oh, yes, sir. Everybody's fine, thank you.
Now, outside of working with the SWAT team, where are you employed, sir?
I work at Emory University as an assistant professor and at the Emory University Emergency Department, Clifton Road.
Okay. And as an assistant professor, what do you teach?
It's a clinical position. I do mostly practical labs and case scenarios. I don't lecture.
Okay. Are you training other, soon-to-be physicians or physicians?
We have med students and residents that rotate through the department.
Okay. And what kind of physician are you in at Emory?
I'm a board-certified emergency physician.
Okay. And tell the jury a little bit about your background in order to be a board-certified emergency room physician.
I attended medical school and then did a 4-year residency in emergency medicine at Charity Hospital in New Orleans, and then moved back to Atlanta in 1996 and have been employed here since then.
Okay. So about how long have you been a doctor? My math isn't very good.
I've been practicing in Georgia for 25 years.
Okay. And where have you practiced other than Emory?
Originally North Lake Regional Medical Center, and then DeKalb Medical Center, Northside Hospital, and now Emory.
And were you employed at Emory on September 25th, 2016?
Yes, sir.
And what were you working that day?
I worked that night shift and came in at 11 p.m.
11 p.m.
Yes,
And, when did your shift end?
7 a.m.
And then did you go with the SWAT team?
No,
7:30?
not that. No, sir.
When you're in the ER, I guess where are you in the ER? Are you floating? Are you seeing all the patients? Is there a specific area that you focus on?
No, at the nighttime we rotate through the entire emergency department wherever the next patient is to see.
Okay. And do you treat any specific type of patient, or do you treat all the patients?
Anyone that comes in.
Okay. And were you the only physician on staff that evening?
No, sir.
Okay. Who else, or who were you working with that night?
I routinely work with Dr. Hardy. Her and I are partnered to work Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday nights. And at that time, we rotated between 10 and 11. Now we both come in at 10 o'clock.
Okay. And I know Dr. Hardy is an attending. Are you also an attending?
Yes.
Okay.
And you also tell them in this discharge recommendation, or whatever it's called, there may be a tendency to want to overwork or become so busy that you distract yourself from the intense pain you feel. Correct?
Honestly, these are pre-printed out, pre-programmed.
I understand.
So I go through and hit grief reaction and depression, and honestly, I've not fully read all of these prior to me.
Understood. But this is what Emory does when someone comes
Correct.
in and says they have the ailments that you diagnosed and then wrote prescriptions for, correct?
Correct.
And if you'll just look at page 37 of 73, bottom left is the page numbers.
Yes, sir.
Kind of the last paragraph, last sentence. There may be a tendency to want to overwork or become so busy that you distract yourself, correct?
Yes.
I think that's all the questions I have. Mr. Abate, redirect?
Just a few questions. These are generic instructions. Did you read them to the defendant?
No, sir.
Did you watch him read them at all?
No, sir.
Do you even know if he read them?
No, sir.
Okay. And the prescription that you prescribed to the defendant, was that prescription based solely on what the defendant told you?
Based on his complaint and what I felt was medically warranted.
Okay. But he had no vital signs that...
Objection leading.
Were there any vital signs that show that he was having any physical manifestations that would go along with having an anxiety attack?
Based on review of the records, his vital signs were essentially normal.
So is that a no?
No.
No further questions.
Questions from the jurors for Dr. Rowe? Deputy Murphy, if you pull up, please.
Okay, so that's the doctor that actually treated Tex McIver. Now, some of you might be looking at him and thinking, this guy doesn't quite look like a doctor. It should be noted that he actually assists the SWAT team on a medical purpose, so he might not look like a doctor, but he sure is one. I'm here again with Law and Crime trial analyst Julie Rendelman. As we hear this jury question, how sick, for lack of a better word, was Tex? Was he going through grief? Was he depressed? Was he suffering as the result of his wife died? How important is this, Julie?
I mean, obviously he wasn't showing the signs of having a massive heart attack, but I think one of the things that the defense honed in on, which is the most relevant part, which is you gave him drugs because you thought it was appropriate to give him drugs. And if you didn't need to give him drugs, then you were basically not doing your job. So he acknowledged that he felt the need to give him drugs to make him feel better. So that to me is an indication that he believed him when he said he was feeling incredible anxiety.
We see so many cases where we talk about the defendant's, the way he reacted to the death of a significant loved one. I find that to be a bit weak. What do you think?
You know, I hate to bring up Modern Family, but we always talk about, there was a story once where someone's aunt died, and Claire just kept laughing every time she spoke about it. And everyone understood it because people have a tendency to react the wrong way when something incredibly sad or serious happens. There is no way to gauge what anyone is going to do or say when a loved one passes away, especially in a circumstance like this that is so unusual. And so to make an assumption as to the way someone should act, and for a jury to even consider that to me is quite silly.
Julie, let's listen into the jury question.
If you didn't find physical signs of anxiety, the pulse rate or the panic attacks, things like that?
I felt that warranted this situation of his wife passing away in a tragic, a sudden event was worth getting low dose 4 pills in that situation.
In your time in the emergency room at Emory University Hospital, is it common to treat patients whose sole reporting situation or issue is anxiety and or depression?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. I'm trying to have you share with the jury if it's common, based on your time in the ER there at the University Hospital, to have patients whose sole diagnosis or perceived condition is I'm feeling anxious and or depressed.
Yes. So it is not an uncommon chief complaint of patients of anxiety, depression.
Mr. Abate, any follow-up to those questions?
Just on your honor, you said, I believe, the reason for the prescription was because the defendant had just tragically lost his wife. Did he ever tell you during your interactions after this tragic loss or about how much he loved his wife?
I don't recall.
Did he say anything about his affection or how sorry he was for his loss?
I do not recall.
Mr. Samuel, any follow-up? No. All right. Thank you, Doctor, for your time.
Thank you.
Next witness.
As the next witness comes on, I want to talk to Julie really quick. The big issue in this case that they talked about was Emory Hospital. Should Tex have gone to a different hospital? We know that in the Atlanta region there were 2 other hospitals, AMC and Grady. What do you think about that, Julie?
I hate to minimize everything that the prosecutor is trying to raise, but I think there's a big assumption to assume that this specific defendant knew that this was not the hospital to go to for urgent care. I think it's a big assumption.
All right, guys, we have a next witness coming on the stand, and let's hear who he is. I can guarantee you, I think he's probably from the hospital. Let's listen in, everybody.
I don't think that that's an even guess.